business. And this India Immersion program, I believe, is the first of its kind for Israeli students to come to India. Besides this, Israeli students, of course, have been coming to India for a long time, to Goa and Kerala. We don't even want to discuss what they have been doing there. But this program is a unique program which in many ways provides a peep into the new India, the evolution of Indian society, and the fact that India is not just about many aspects of Indian culture and Indian interest. In fact, in a way, I will say that this program that we are having today has challenged even the disciplinary engagement of the founding faculty members of the Israeli Center. Both Rohi Dasgupta as well as Kinraj, their own engagement has been in the fields of anthropology, political science and related fields. But this theme is a theme which is very different from many things that the center has been doing. And to that extent, I'm very happy that it's looking at the business landscape of India, the business and the larger entrepreneurial context of India. I think it's fair to say that Israel, being the sort of entrepreneurial and social innovation capital of the world, it will only make sense for Israeli students to come and look at what India is trying to do with all its complexities. Of course, in India, you can't study business in isolation. Everything in India is connected to the historical and social context in which we in India live, work, function, study. And so we are very, very delighted to welcome all of you to India and to OPG Global University. I also want to take a moment to welcome the distinguished professor from Hebrew University to India and to OPG Global University. Thank you for your presence here. And also I thank my colleagues Rohi as well as Kinraj and Dean School Sriram Chaulia and all the students and the faculty members from JGU who have contributed to this program, including Kalyani, Amit Zairi, Ashish Bharadwaj and many others who you will be meeting during the course of these sessions. With those few words, I look forward to being part of the program. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Raj. And indeed, for me, this visit is also personal. First, as a good friend of Raj, but my mother was also born in India, and my wife, both of her parents were born in Cochin. So for me, it's also a personal reason to visit this fantastic country and to learn from it. And I want to say something about similar DNA of both Jindal Global University and the College of Law and Business. And I once saw in your website a slogan that also associated with the NYU, a private university in the public service. And I think this slogan captures quite nicely both the DNA of Jindal.
It's part of our...
your mission, okay. And at least in terms of a private university which is usually associated with high quality and some global flavor, there's no doubt that Jindal is top, at least in law. I think it's the best law school in India. And just to think that only 9 years ago this institution was established and now it is ranked and it's world renowned, this is a fantastic achievement, and for us it's a great honor to collaborate with you. I understand that also the business school is internationally renowned. In terms of the College of Law and Business, we run a law journal, Law and Ethics of Human Rights, which is also very widely respected. It is ranked second among 600 non-American journals, according to Washington and Lee. And we also sent a team to compete in the ICC mediation competition in Paris, and they won first place, and that's a huge achievement for you. So, at least in terms of academic excellence and aspiring to be global player, we are definitely in the same game. But there is another dimension in which these two institutions are similar, is the public spirit. And I know that here there are fantastic stuff done in terms of human rights and in terms of corporate social responsibility. CLB is also committed, both in the business school, we run the CSR Institute, and the law school is known for being the most activist law school in Israel. Some of you study constitutional law. When you look at the syllabus of the course, not only in the College of Law and Business, but also across Israel, the term, the College of Law and Business against the government in Israel as a case appears in many cases, at least 4 cases. Think of the fact that out of 14 cases in which the Israeli Supreme Court struck down law violating the basic law, human dignity and freedom, 4 of them were led by the College of Law and Business, and you were, and the legal clinic were part of this great success. We're involved in striking down privatization of prisons, protecting humane condition of prisoners, protecting asylum seekers, protecting the national gas resources of Israel. The students were all involved in these activities. And if we go back to the slogan, private university and the private service, well, it's quite obvious and natural that we have to collaborate, and indeed we did. I visited Jindal a year ago following a delegation from the Israeli President, Reuven Rivlin, and then we signed an MOU with the presence of the President of Israel. Only a few months followed, and there was a delegation coming from Jindal. We organized a conference in Israel on corporate social responsibility in Israel and in India, and here we meet again. And this time with a delegation and a conference, and then there's another conference on constitutional law, and we really look forward to also host a delegation from Jindal in Israel at the College of Law and Business. And this is how ties are being created. You have students meet students from Jindal and from India, and I think this is part of being a global lawyer and a global business person. So I thank you very much, Raj, for a fantastic hospitality, and I wish you, students, that you enjoy your stay here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Moshe. Now I call upon Dr. Ron Berger. Oh, sorry, please.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce Dr. Ron Berger, who is the senior lecturer in the College of Business and Law in Israel. His area of research is innovation, international business, and culture, so very much focused on Israel as a startup nation, which will be the focus of his talk. He has published widely in various fields of world business and industrial marketing management, business ethics, as well as management. So, Dr. Berger, over to you.
Let's see that it all works fine. Forward. Okay, I thank you, everybody. I sat and thought, what should be the subject of my lecture? Should I talk to my Israeli students? But I think they heard too much from me in Israel. So really this talk is more to you. And I said to myself, what would interest you? Do you want me to talk about India and how Israel sees India? Or do you want me to talk about business in Israel? And then I thought to myself, India has a lot to do with innovation. What can both cultures learn from each other? And how did Israel become an innovation country? And what I would like you to do is to think, how can you take some things, some aspects that made Israel a startup nation and implement it into Indian culture, into Indian industry. I tried to make it as simple as possible and put it into some kind of a model, hierarchical model that is easy to understand. So Israel, startup nation. So generally, why is innovation important? If we look at global trends, you can see the world has stopped growing, and without innovation, the world will continue growing at roughly 2.5–3%. These are what economists say. So we need innovation to grow. So this is the importance, and innovation is generally based on knowledge we need to create a knowledge base. So if we look at knowledge and how it affects the competitive advantage of companies, over years we can see that a country does not invest in its human capital in creating knowledge, such as strong universities, will just start going backwards. Okay, so India has learned that and is investing. For instance, this university here is built on excellence. So let's try to think what has made Israel into such an innovative country. So we have three aspects: culture, so something we call informality, religion, tolerance of failure, and I'll explain each one. National infrastructure, what we as a country have invested to create this knowledge. And thirdly, reality, what God gave us. Yeah, if we look at Arab countries, God gave them a lot of petroleum. So they really do not have to be innovative. It's in the ground, so if you need money, just take a spoon and dig. So I made a few points, and let's go one by one and see what happens. Culture. I look for a picture to explain Israeli culture. So my Israeli students just see this picture, right away understand what is meant by culture. Okay? So, informality versus formality. We Israelis are very informal. So for instance, when I come to our president, I call him Moshe, that's his first name. And I think here in India, they'll never call you by your student.
My colleagues call me, sometimes students call me too, but that's a
very exception here. Yeah, and so if you look at informality, we break rules. Israelis never seem to abide by the rules. We always try to find something called Yeh Beseder. Yeh Beseder in Hebrew is doing it.
That's jugad in India.
Jugad, yeah, it's a very, you stole the word I wanted. So we have Jugad, we have Jam Pashan to create the networks, Peshan, Lenden, Baharosa, and everything around that as well. So everyone questions authority. Even I, as a lecturer, I come to lectures, some students raise their hand and say, Ron, informality, what makes you an expert? So you're good enough to teach us, the students, right? I have to, all the time, guard my place, otherwise the students will eat me, okay? Yeah, and if I show a small vulnerability, then yeah, it's like sharks. So, but that's what creates a drive.
You're giving away too many secrets to your...
No, they have it. It's part of the DNA. If you see I'm looking at them all the time, and I'm making eye contact with them all the time. Yeah, we do not like hierarchy. Yeah, if you look at the Israeli army, if you look at companies, we don't like hierarchy because the hierarchy creates bureaucracy. Bureaucracy stops innovation. We want information to flow. Yeah, so again, Yeh Beseder, to wing it, combine our way around it. We have a word called dafka. Somebody comes and says, you won't make it? I'll show you that I can do it. And then we all go into it. This is something that drives us to do things. So, like a small country, how can it survive with so many enemies around it? Okay, so this informality drives this innovation. And as we are a small country, we befriend each other. Friends is an integral part of Jewish culture. Yeah, we also, King Raj said, what a nice group. You all are talking between each other. Some of us have never seen each other before we came here. Most of us. Yeah. And we are very, very different religions, different backgrounds, but we'll always find a way to, find some kind of Jam Pashan, work together, network together. Okay? And that's to do with informality, because even if you give me a business card, my students don't call me Professor Berger or anything like that. You know, if they call me Ron, they're not, hey, you. I can open the door and the student will come in, nobody will try to open the door, I'm a professor. No. It doesn't even cross or Yeah, or yeah, Ashraf, you can send me a WhatsApp. Can you wake me up in the morning? It's amazing. Yeah, but that's informality. Yeah, and he sees it totally natural. Yeah, okay, so that's informality. Religion is also something strong because it's part of our DNA. In religion, if you look at that, the Jewish religion demands of the children to ask questions. Question everything. If you take 100 Israelis, there will be 110 ideas or voices. So even in the religion, we are demanded to ask questions to learn. Because if you look at Confucianism cultures, Chinese culture, Taoism, if you look also at a lot of Muslim cultures, you learn hierarchy, you learn to obey. You not learn to ask questions. Okay? So even in class, my students all the time ask me questions, I have to come prepared. Okay? So religion helps innovation in the sense, if we ask, we break barriers, we think differently, and we're not scared of it. So that is religion. How do we see failure? Israelis are very, very proud of their failures. Because from failure, we can learn how to become better. In China, we see failure as a loss of face, Nianzi.
In India too.
Yeah?
It's a very intolerant society for failure.
In Israel, there are conferences on failure. So you come in front of everybody and say how your startup failed. And everybody claps your hands that you failed, because what can we learn about it? Even in the Israeli army, you're allowed to take calculated risks, and if you fail, it's okay, because we can learn something from it. For instance, yeah, one of our F-16s was brought down, yeah? So now, what do we learn from it? Okay? So we take calculated risks. If you take uncalculated risks, then that's bad. But calculated risks are fine. Israeli culture is tolerant of failure, and there's no loss of face. And that shows that if you look at statistics at startup companies that have succeeded, you will see that the entrepreneurs who succeeded had many failures before that. So if they did not continue to fail, they would have never succeeded. So you have to just get up like a kid, yeah, dust yourself off, and do it again and again and again. In China, that's not true. You lose Nianzi, you lose face, maybe also in India. I'm not an expert in India yet. You lose face, yeah, and then you lower, maybe your caste gets lower, you go lower in that system. Okay? And if we look at startups, it becomes a natural sport. For instance, my friend here just has 2 startups. Andrea, one his own, and one he has a boss. And yeah, and Ashraf also has all kinds of ideas. So it is a nation of startups, and even when you're at university, you have your own startup. So we embrace risk, we accept failure. Later on I'll explain why it's part of our culture, but it's part of it. So we call it not failures, we call it constructive failures, because we can learn from it. Okay? So we talked about the Israeli army, so we need to take risk intelligently, learn from it, move forward. You can never succeed in entrepreneurship at the first go. You fail again, get up, fail again, get up, and so on, and we're fine with that. So that is how we see failure. After that, let's look at infrastructure that the Israeli government has built for us to create this innovation cycle. And again, all the time, the students sitting and the professors sitting around think, how can we correlate it? How can we bring it into Indian society? I still don't know, but maybe we can have a small talk after my lecture, yeah? I made it about 15, 20 minutes, no longer than that. Yeah? And think about it. So Army. Army is really this hot pot, this cooking pot of innovation. We have special units that teach you innovation, and a lot of these soldiers who finish these units, I think your son is one of them, so he's going to be an innovator, for sure. Look at the smile. Here he is. I've got a startup under my belt here. Yeah, his proud father. Even before they finished the army, they've already started their startup at the expense of the taxpayer. Yeah, but that's in using a lot of knowledge learned there. So generally, if we look at the elite Israeli army, they take the brightest to go into the units. It's not the brightest in technology. He could be an artist, a musician. Because if you think about various radars and codes, some people can see things, hear things differently, come from different aspects. So if you bring a very heterogeneous group, mathematicians, electronics, and artists, all together, and they have to think how to solve a problem quickly, that is something that is unique. Now, they give them the latest toys, okay, to play around. When I say toys, these are expensive toys. Yeah, I was a missile engineer in the Israeli army. Yeah, I had more money than I could ever spend. I did not know on what to spend it on. Yeah, so we invented things. Yeah, we thought outside of the box. We experimented. Yeah, now in these special units, hierarchy is on paper. So even if you're an officer, it doesn't mean anything. What means is what you have in your brains, how you think. So again, remember hierarchy? An Israeli army thinks bottom up, not top bottom. Again, I don't know how it is in the Indian army.
Everything is top down.
Okay, so if I may, without hurting anybody's feeling, robots.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Israeli army, a 19-year-old soldier, not even necessarily an officer, decides if to shoot with a cannon or the tank and do what he needs to do. He needs to make this split decision. It's from top up. So he has a general strategy, what he needs to do, but tactics are on floor level. Okay, this is something quite unique for the Israeli army. Now, what else do they do? Learn how to build products fast and cheap. Fast, we have to find a fast solution. Cheap is because Israelis just don't have the money. Okay, in comparison, maybe even to the Indian army, the budgets that you have, the budget Americans have, and so we have to take that. Work in teams. We're team workers. You have to be a team worker, otherwise we have nothing there. Take calculate risk and leadership. As you said, leadership is extremely important. So even a low-ranked soldier needs to learn leadership to take people with them. I, as a lecturer, have to show the students I know what I'm talking about, to lead them with me, to make them flow with me. Look at how I lecture, all my body moves, everything go, because that's the only way I can get the attention of the people around me. Okay, so it comes from the army. Also, at university, also in the army, we look at something called applied research. Israelis are less good at theoretics, more applied. What can we do with it? How can we bring it into industry? How can we move it on? Okay? So everything, lightning speed, everything is possible. Yes, we can. Okay? I'm not Obama, yeah, yes, we can. But yes, if we look at the Israeli army, we have no space to say it cannot be done. We're a small country. Everything can be done. It's now a question of how can it be done. Okay? If you have that mentality, it can be done. When I teach, for instance, in China, they're in shock at that. Yes, not everything can be done. Yeah? And we say, don't worry, we have kombina. Yebeseder, dafka. These are all the things I told you. We'll find a jugad way around it. In India, you have it. Everything can be done. Even if I forgot my visa, we'll find a way around it. It'll be okay. Yeah? You have this innovation. We'll get on. We'll flow on. Okay. So we have a lot in common. The balagan, the innovation comes out of it. Now in the army, we need friends for life. Okay. And generally, if you look at the startup companies, they come from special units. If you look at their serial number, generally they went at roughly the same time together. So a lot of knowledge comes from the infrastructure built by the taxpayer, by the army. And today we fight to be in these units, and this is why generally it's by invitation only. Even if you have very good grades, you have to be invited to these. And once you're invited to these units, you have a job. Before even you finish the army, you're offered jobs. Just 8200 is written on your CV. Almost all startup companies are just look, all my students are doing this. You have a job. Yeah, you want to marry one of those because then financially you're well.
Great cost.
It's a great thing to do. So we try to, me as a father, try to promote already my children. My eldest daughter is 12. She already knows what unit she wants to be in. Yeah, I'm preparing her for everything for this because then it's great. So really, the Army teaches improvisation, teaches a can-do mentality. It is very, very important. Now, government, a lot of Indians come and say, we've succeeded, although the government didn't really help us. Also, you said that it was very, very difficult. So maybe if the Israeli government tries to help, but they're not that, right?
They're slow.
They're slow, but it's a government. So really, Israel tries to have the government, academia, and industry together. We call it the triple helix model. I won't go deeply into it, just so you just understand. And they have started something called the incubators. Because if you look at Israel, Israel is an immigrant country. A lot of immigrants came, they had no jobs, they had a lot of knowledge, a lot came from Russia. So what we did is we created an incubator program to help incubate ideas. Now we have many of these types. A lot of countries bring researchers to Israel to learn how to create this process of how to create these incubators. Now if you will look at it, for instance at your mobiles, you see a lot of the parts of your mobile phone is government funded, like the GPS is government funded. Yeah, the home button is government funded. And if you ask, what does the government get out of it? Because a startup company in Israel that succeeds gets sold, so maybe they get some tax. They don't have that many workers, employees, but the government understands that Israel needs knowledge, and that is their natural resources, and it is a renewable resource. It's not when you dig all the petroleum out, it's done. So Israeli government, even if it's slow, it does what it can with the limited abilities, knowledge that it has, because startups, they first do and then they think. And governments have to go through different processes. But still, it is a relatively pro-startup, pro-technology government. Education. Very similar to the Indian culture. The Jewish mother pushes her children to go and study. Even with myself, my mother came to me and said, your grandfather has a PhD, your father has a PhD, when are you starting yours? It was not a question if, it was when. And it was a when, meaning start applying now. Yeah? Yeah? You want to get some inheritance? Start working. Yeah? It's just a very, again, I do the same thing. I don't know if it's good or it's bad. I come to my children, you will be engineers. Yeah? And if you, from the very small age, when I was now in Hong Kong, I bought Lego. Why? Lego helps what? Children learn, yeah, from how to read, how to build. It creates the proper way of thinking. And I'm totally in that. Right? My wife also doesn't like it that much. Yeah, but we push our children to dream, to be academics. And later on I'll explain, it's also part of our DNA, because knowledge, nobody can take away from us. And if we have to go to a different country, run away, do something, knowledge is something ingrained that nobody can take away. My property, my money, it can be taken away if you look at World War II. Okay? Inquisitions. But my knowledge, nobody can take away from me. And this is why we push our children to learn. And I think also in India, a way to go forward is study, and maybe your parents finance you, eat less, but go and study. It's very, very important to do that. And this is why in Israel, small country, yeah, we have so many leading academic institutions. And as an academic, even myself, if you can succeed in the fierce competition in Israel, in an academic world, in publications and in teaching, then you'll succeed everywhere. Because if you succeed teaching Israeli students, I think Indian students are more easygoing, yeah? In China, for sure, it's like that. They all listen, they write what you say, no arguments. What you say, if you tell them red is green, then it is so. Yeah? Here they'll talk about shades, yeah, my students. So very difficult, competition is very, very fierce. But what does education give us? It gives us opportunities, reduce poverty, stronger voice in society. Yeah? If we look at better educated, skilled people are really essential for creating today a competitive advantage. Okay? So I think also the Indian government has understood that and is investing in education, because once you're educated, you have choice. Choice, I think, is something very important. If we look just at how many Nobel Prize winners that are Jewish, and if you look at the amount of engineers per 100,000 employees in Israel, it's very, very high. Looking at the educational level, Israel is third. It was just now published. The first is Japan, Canada, and then Israel at the country education level. And then we are pushing our children for education. For me, I cannot imagine that one of my children will not have at least a postgraduate degree. Not an undergrad, at least a post. It's unthinkable, okay? And that's maybe too much pushing. In Japan you have that. Yeah. So human capital is very good. To create innovation, you need a heterogeneous population. In China, it's very homogeneous. They all think the same, they're all Mandarin. This is something great in India. Yeah, I don't think even you know how many different sects and religions you have. So if we look at Israel, it's a nation of immigration. And if you look at, and who is an immigrant? Is somebody who's willing to start over. He's somebody who's willing to take a risk. He's somebody who's really motivated to succeed. Okay? And these people also have global network because they came from one country and they left some kind of family. So very, very well networked. So once you're very heterogeneous, even if you look at our group here, different religions, different age, we think differently, then we can break existing ideas. Again, in India, in China, sorry, they're very same. They come from even Japan. Very, very same. So innovation in Japan is different than innovation in Israel. We think how to think outside of the box, but within the box, meaning there are still rules of what is possible, scientifically. Okay. So that's looking at reality. What has God given us? Sometimes I say, what a mistake. Why didn't he go to Kuwait? Moses that brought us out. Then we'll have petroleum. So they found a bit of gas now in Israel, but it's still nothing. We don't have. It's such a small country, so little natural resources. So Israel as an island mentality. People come and say, why do Israelis go fly on holidays overseas? Because where can I go? Can I go to, I don't know, Lebanon? It's a one-way street, yeah? If I go to Lebanon, I'll come back. Yeah. They stay, generally, if a car is stolen in Israel, it leaves the country. Yeah, yeah. Well, so we have nowhere to go, so we have very friendly neighbors and the sea next to us, and some of them want us to be in the sea, maybe reclaim the sea. So we're an island. So generally, we have to think global from day one. Israel is such a small country, we have a very small market. If you think big, then just as you think about the startup company, you right away have to think, about what are the global implications. My student here, is all the time on the plane, just came back, right, South Africa, various countries. Right away you have to think about how do you take your product, and Israel is this beta site. That's where you test your product. But you don't create a product for Israel, it's an uninteresting market. So this is why we're called the exit. We're always looking to sell it because we're very good at ideas, we're very bad at marketing. Small country, okay? So we also have to think about self-dependence. We have survival instincts. I think also here in India, you have to survive, you have to find a way around, otherwise you'll be hungry. So Israel as an island mentality is very, very important. For instance, an NBC Universal president came and said, why is all this happening in Israel? I've never seen so much chaos and so much innovation all in one place. When you see what's happening here in India, it's very, very similar, even much worse. There is a lot of innovation. So a lot of innovation comes from hardship. If you look at the best well-known artists, Van Gogh, for instance, came from hardship. So a lot of innovation comes from, or I'll go hungry, or I have to invent something, and I have small children, I have no choice but to succeed. And if you have this driving mentality in you, then you will succeed. And I think Indians have it. Okay? And other small countries also have this mentality. If you look at Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, they also have this island mentality. Going on, small size. In Israel, roughly 2 hours you can get to anything, from one side to another. And everybody is 2 hours a phone call away. If I want to have a 5-minute call with the Prime Minister of Israel, I know how to get to it. But I'll have 5 minutes, once. So if I want to get to anybody in Israel, it's called a 2-phone call away. Israel has good infrastructure, easy to get around, and there are no unknown millionaires, which means if I need to get to some kind of millionaire to get some kind of grant, and I Googled him and I know I need to get to him, I will find somebody who knows him. Or some kind of a mutual acquaintance. Doesn't mean I'll succeed. It means I will have an interaction with that millionaire. So we are very, very well-networked country. Second, history and political situation. So I touched on it. Historically, Jews were persecuted, and we have to think in a flexible manner to survive. We have to create global networks. And I hold multiple passports. I have a German passport, American passport, Israeli passport. Of course, my children have the same. So the world is open to them. And if we look at Israel, a lot of Israelis have multiple nationalities. And again, it's a survival instinct. Some of us hold bank accounts in different countries. We don't talk about it, but we do that. And it's to do with survival and risk calculations here. And really, Israeli army is very strong. What risk do we have? But it's part of our DNA. And this is also what brings us to being entrepreneurship, thinking around around it. And this leads me to another word called chutzpah. Chutzpah is, I break protocol. I will, if I have a nice idea, I will knock on the president's door and say, listen, I have an idea to talk to you. You break all the hierarchy. I think here in India, you don't do that. But here, if a student will have a nice idea on an interesting course, they will come to Moshe here and say, Moshe, they'll get him on the way to the toilet or something. Stop for a second, or walk with him to the toilet. Give him no choice. That's called chutzpah. But we have it. We just don't care.
Our students have a lot of chutzpah. Way more than what is needed.
They should know that.
And I think you should. It's very funny, but there's a very interesting film, commercial Bollywood production called Heather.
Okay.
And the beeline of that film was chutzpah. I mean, this word became very famous once upon a time in the city because of that particular film.
Yeah, so, but think about it, that leads to innovation. You break protocols. In China, never do that. Never. Okay? This is why their innovation is built on taking something and making it better. But not on really inventing. If you look at the WeChat, which is a WhatsApp, it's better than WhatsApp. But did they invent anything new? No. Okay? But we invent new things. Let's continue on. Financing. Sadly, Israel is not a rich country. We don't have a lot of money. The light green is money that comes to a venture capital that's from outside of Israel. The dark green is the amount of money for venture capital that comes from Israel. So you can see the difference. So if you are a venture capital, or you're a startup and need money, the competition of money is intense. So the best get money. So you work extremely hard to get some kind of grant, get some kind of money. If I equate it to China, there's so much money, you don't have to work hard. You just think of an idea, you create a startup, you get money. So a lot of so-so startups exist and a lot of money is wasted. Because Israel doesn't have a lot of money, if you manage to get money from a startup, you're extremely good. There's no second chance. The fight is extreme. And again, in this world, Israel is a very hard country to live in. Okay? Let's continue. Natural resources. Sadly, Israel is not rich in natural resources, and this is why we have to create a natural resources. Porter's 5-force model comes and says we have advanced sources, means we created knowledge as a resource, and the good thing about knowledge, it's renewable. Yeah? When you look at petroleum, when it's finished, it's finished. So if we have good universities, it's a renewable competitive advantage leading to innovation. So in one hand, I say thank you to Moses, who brought us to a country that has nothing. And then we had to make it green, like drip irrigation. We had to think about how to make Israel nicer. I don't know if anybody flew to Israel. If you fly over, let's say, a different country, then you see it's all brown, and when you come to Israel, suddenly you see it green. Okay? So you see there's a lot of water. When I was in Cape Town, I couldn't believe that they have no water. There's so much water there. What are you doing? Where's your desalination? Water purification? No, we believe in God. Yeah, they'll bring us the water. Today, most of the water we drink comes from desalination in Israel. Okay? Because we have no natural resources. Diaspora. So if we look at that, we are a very highly networked societies, very similar to the Indians. I live in the UK, so I see the Indians interacting with other Indians, and right away, when I came to the UK, the Israeli population there right away took me in, showed me around, international connections, very similar family type of culture, we have that, and that really helps innovation, where if I need an idea, or I need to get certain knowledge, I just call Harvard. If you look at how many Jewish professors are there, if I say, hi, I'm Jewish as well, I need to ask you a question, it will help. And with a chutzpah, and persistence, and it will help. You knock on his door until he says, what do I need to do? That you stop calling me? And we do that, but you have to have this nice, don't do it too aggressively, something passive-aggressive it's called, and you'll get there. So the diaspora really helps in enhancing this innovation. So these are roughly the points that I thought of why has Israel become a startup nation. And now I'll leave it to you if you have any questions, any ideas, maybe food for thought. How do you see any points that I gave here? Maybe I'll put this slide on, this one, that you can see what can we learn, where is it, the main one, this one. What can be applied to India?
Okay, one of the So you position Israel in the spectrum of innovation, which basically sustains economic growth and produces
Yes.
economic growth and creativity, through creativity. So, very fascinating. China is also very highly innovative, but tremendous authority. And obviously, the lack of flexibility, bureaucracy. India is somewhere in between China and Israel. There is a huge amount of bureaucracy, but Jugaad, as we keep referring to, was born out of the informal economy in India, which also employs the largest number of labor, terribly unregulated, very little sort of minimum wage and rights and all that, but tremendous source of innovation. And now the formal economy, the corporate sector, is learning basically how to derive the Jugaad. So, for example, Unilever, Hindustan Lever, the Indian branch, complete deviation from multinational models, learn to position that the largest selling soap in the world, bottom of the pyramid approach, with an Indian academic diaspora, C.K. Pradhan, looked at the slums, Dharavi slums for example, and looked at how to position basically to the poor market, that people can be poor, but they can be part of the market, and how to include that. So interestingly, I mean, how do you then basically have an osmosis between the Israeli, which is organically informal, but in India, you've got to be basically struggling if you're part of the informal.
I'll try to address it. It's a long question,
Sorry.
and I don't know if I can answer that. In China, the innovation is very different. It's take something, break it apart, and make it better. That's called process innovation. We try to make it cheaper or better. Okay? Here in India, very similar to Israel, I think innovation is done out of necessity. Okay, I have no choice. If I don't innovate, if you look at Tata, right? Then what did he do? I want a car, priced at roughly, what, $5,000? Now, do it. They work backwards. If you know, there's a big tech talk about Tata and how he did it.
But actually more like $2,000.
$2,000? $2,000. Okay, it's the cheapest car that brings what? Pride to the people? Right? Because so we think backwards. So yes, India is so very different. So I think generally, correct me if I'm wrong, innovation comes from, I have no choice but to innovate if I want to succeed in life. Very similar to Israel, but you're not an island. It comes from just economic necessity. I don't think the government helps that much. It doesn't. Yeah, how you created JSIA, you had a feeling. Yeah, I have a dream. Yeah, and you went after that. You had the chutzpah, and you didn't let him go. 14 times you went over here. He had no chance. And you, the politician, right? And I'm sure you did more things. Yeah, closed on him on the down, that he had no choice but to get this 100 million. Yeah, no choice.
I want to take up on something which you said about China. See, one of the things which, where I have a slight difficulty in your comparison with China is that I take your point about where Israel is from. But then, China is a very old society like India. And but China has done its own radical transformation of society where, it has innovated in its own way. And so in some ways I'm trying to understand how would you position China for all its successes today when it is able to, like let's pick up universities for example. I mean it lost 3 decades in cultural revolution. Just a decade ago we didn't have a single university in the top 200 in the world. Few years ago, PhD rankings, it had 3 universities. And this last year, it ended up having 7 universities. And I was, just 3-4 days ago, a bunch of us were there at this university called the Southern University of Science and Technology, which is a 6-year-old university. They have 6,000 plus students, 20% faculty like us, non-Indian nationals, non-Chinese nationals, recruited from other parts of the world. It is well on its way, laboratories and and artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, you name it, at the forefront of everything that is there for innovation economy. Shenzhen as a city is in the early stages of Palo Alto and the whole Silicon Valley situation. How do you explain that?
As follows. First of all, if we look at the Chinese religion, if you want to call it, Taoism, Confucianism. Confucianism leads to hierarchy. Means you don't break hierarchy. Which means if I am a worker, if I am a meager, associate professor, I'll never come to the senior professor and tell him, I have a dream, I have another idea. If you're told to do something wrong, you do it because hierarchy. Okay, that's all. If you look at Taoism, we look for harmony, meaning destructive innovation. When I innovate something, I can destroy somebody else's income. So that's very, very dangerous. So Chinese generally do not innovate, they try to create harmony. For instance, when I teach in China, I ask my executive MBA students there, how many of you want to be innovators? I teach an innovation course. 3, 4 out of about 70. What do you want to do? Work in the central bank. Very, very stable salary, stable, boring, if I can call it that, life. Now, Chinese innovation is built on making things cheaper and better. If you look at everything, almost everything that came out of China, Alibaba, Baidu, it's something that has existed. They have taken different parts, put them together in a cheaper, better, faster manner. How do you create world-class university? You throw at them money, a lot of money, and then more money, bringing foreign academics, sending Chinese students to study somewhere else, and bring back international knowledge, but with Chinese characteristics. It's very, very problematic. I don't know if you've taught, you taught in mainland. Hong Kong is different, yeah? Do they ask questions?
Well, surprisingly, I had students who did ask questions, and I actually taught them.
Surprisingly.
Yes, I was surprised because the impressions that many of us have about China I was even challenged by that impression, by that experience.
So it is not that common.
Yes, but it's a changing China too.
It is changing, but still it's part of their DNA, which means when you have a problem that needs an innovative solution, Americans, Israelis send 1, 2, 3 very, very smart entrepreneurs to solve it. The Chinese will send 30, 40 at the problem, and it will be solved out of sheer quantity.
But see, Lord,
Does that make
how much
sense?
would you attribute that to culture as opposed to an inherent sense of wanting to be innovative? And I'll explain what it is. So, for example, Japanese and Chinese culturally are not adept to doing things in a particular way as the Americans would do. Now, that doesn't mean they're less innovative. They are culturally differently placed, and that might indeed make them less competitive in certain contexts. I get that. But is that being less innovative, or it's culturally different?
It's different type of innovation. Israelis are good at innovating something that does not exist. Chinese, again, are very good at operational innovation. They're very bad at theoretical innovation. Okay, something that does not exist. If you look at Huawei, if you look at the various Chinese mobile phone manufacturers, they're taking the best ideas from from different manufacturers and putting it together in a better package. That's very good, but they understand that in order to jump to the next step, they have to break hierarchy. But it's against their DNA. They have to break harmony. That's the government. Very problematic, because the government is thinking, how do I control my people, but letting them innovate within the box? So we have certain areas. So please.
You didn't relate, Ron, to the role of democracy and what effect does it have? Because if we compare India and China, well, democracy is the obvious difference. And I'm just curious whether mass transformation of China would have happened in a democracy, where I think sometimes what China did required brute kind of action that any liberal democracy would not agree to. I think this is a greater challenge for India, which is also a massive country that tried to promote human rights. How do you perfect such a fundamental change in such a short period of time?
If you think about China, they have a lot of problems, because if you look at Alibaba, and I don't know if you read in the newspapers, they were issued a red paper, meaning the government said to them, or the local government said, you've done something bad. They approached the central government, who made it a white paper. There's a lot of politics, so they became, Alibaba became too strong, and the government is really strong, frightened of this power coming from outside of the Communist Party. Yeah, I don't know again how much you know. Some of them vanished, and yeah, they were given explanations. So who's the boss? You know, downtone, what's happening. So the government wants controlled entrepreneurship. They're still trying to find this harmony between business and control. Does that make sense? So they have certain areas where we let you think outside the box, but they are very, very scared that the people will start thinking for themselves, and then maybe they'll want more freedom. If you look what's happening now, even the Jugad way around the VPN has been closed in China. The Chinese government let the Chinese people vent out their anger through social networks. Now even that is problematic. They're trying to find this balance. Will they find it? I'm not sure. I think they will continue innovating within the box, and what they'll do, they'll just buy Israel as their R&D app.
Well, but then the question about what Nash is saying is democracy a prerequisite for innovation? Is not necessarily the case. And because we have had enough experiences in China, but also India is a good example where democracy and free spirit does prevail. But then the role of the government becomes less of an enabler in the process of innovation.
No, there was a famous book, The Brain Drain, about the shift of transformation and the emergence of new universities across the globe. And one of the arguments was, well, we are the American. Are we to be afraid of what happens across the globe? And the answer was, we shouldn't be afraid, because we are a democracy, and free spirit and academia can only flourish within democratic setting. And what you actually said, that according to the ranking, you would see more and more Chinese universities without a democracy. So this rebuts this assumption.
It does, and it's but I think what is interesting is that there is a way. I'll give you an example of the institution of a party secretary in a Chinese academic institution. The role of the party secretary historically used to be to kind of a little bit control what's happening in the university. But Chinese have, they have done the jugaad too. They have changed, which is that it's no longer so strong, the party secretary. The presidents and the rectors of universities are much more assertive now than before, when the party secretary has been relegated to a different role. So in a way, my question, and I think that's I know the answer to it in a way, is that China will continue to be what you said, but I am much more confident of it doing that, because unfortunately, they have mastered the way of controlling it in ways it's unbelievable. I mean, it is just unbelievable.
Controlling what?
Controlling
the country,
controlling the people and its ability to, be free. I mean, so if the efficiency level is so high. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I was staying at this hotel called the Langham Hotel in Shenzhen. I was watching BBC, and it reported, BBC live reporting that a bunch of students who were arrested in the Hong Kong trial, the umbrella movement, they got a favorable order from the Court of Final Appeal. BBC reporter is mentioning it, and 7 seconds into that, boom, there was complete black screen.
Wow.
And for 90 seconds, nothing on the screen, and then mysteriously the news.
A great Chinese
Now
firewall.
that means there has to be one guy sitting with a switch on, and for 1 billion plus TVs, it can be switched off.
Wow.
China is very strong in cyber.
I was thinking, if a similar system is attempted to be put in India, more likely this guy would have gone out for a cup of tea.
Oh,
Even if the government had tried to put him there to switch it off, he would have gone for a walk with a friend, or gone to have a cup of tea, or the switch is not working. Something might have happened. So the efficiency level of pursuing this agenda is so strong, it's actually scary. It's a potential fault line.
This is the difference between Italy and Germany during the Second World War.
Right.
Much easier for Jews to hide from the fascist government in Italy than in Germany.
That's right. That is so true. For once, there is something to be said about inefficiency.
Inefficiency. It's against corruption and control.
any questions from the students or any ideas? Okay. Thank you.